very welcome to the HEA ESD Spotlight Series 2025. My name is Anna Rocha and I'm a Senior Executive Officer at HEA. And today we are delighted to have the National College of Ireland sharing some of their ESD practice with us. So I will hand you over to Nicola in a minute, but before that, just a couple of things that I would like to mention before we start. So the session is being recorded, and also you can drop any questions in the chat throughout the presentations, and we will pick them up at the end. So there will be a Q&A session if time allows. Now, without further ado, so I will hand you over to Nicola.
Thank you so very much, Anna. And we'd like to start by welcoming everybody and thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of the college, and it's very much a whistle-stop tour of what we do. National College of Ireland, for those of you who don't know, was established in 1951. We have slightly more students than we had then at 103 this year, and it means that we'll be celebrating our 75th anniversary next year. We are an independent, not-for-profit higher education institution. We offer full and part-time undergraduate and postgraduate programmes. And we have a student body that comprises disciplines of business, computers, psychology, education. And we're also the nexus for a unique collaborative provision programme with the Department of Social Protection. Throughout the history of the college and our mission, vision and values, it has always been our aim to change lives through education, and sustainability has been embedded in that throughout all of our strategic plans, including our current one. So what we hope to do today is take you through a macro to micro overview, a whistle-stop tour of everything that the college espouses in the area of sustainability, and we will take it from our international partnerships to our local partnerships and through to actually what it means for us on the ground within our students and within our faculty body. So I'm going to hand you over now to Bertie Kelly, who is our commercial manager, and he will take you through our stewardship and governance overview for the National College of Ireland. Over to you, Bertie.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Good afternoon, everybody, and I'm delighted to be here as part of the HEA ESD Spotlight Series to share a little bit about the National College of Ireland, who we are and what drives us, and how sustainability sits at the heart of everything that we do. As Nicola has said, we're about to celebrate our 75th anniversary. Currently, we have approximately 6,500 students, which is a relatively even split between the School of Business and the School of Computing. 60% of our students are full-time and 40% are part-time. We have 240 academics and 75 administration staff. And we operate out of two buildings on Mare Street here in Dublin Docklands in the heart of the IFSC. NCI is somewhat of an anomaly in the higher education. We're a non-for-profit registered charity. We receive state funding through the CEO Free Fees scheme. However, the number is capped. We receive some limited capital grants and research funding, though not at the same level as the publicly funded universities and institutes. NCI relies heavily on commercial income. That difference makes us nimble, resourceful, and deeply conscious of how we invest every euro to create impact for our students, for our community, and for our planet. Our strategy 2022 to 2027 set out a clear mission to change lives through education. And we're doing that in a way that embeds sustainability, environmental, social, and economic in all our operations, research, and teaching. I'm now going to give you an insight into our facilities and operations and what we do from a sustainability point of view. We would say that in NCI, sustainability is not just a policy, it's a practice. Some years ago, we made a significant investment to replace all of our light fittings here in Mare Street to LED lighting. And that project was entirely funded by NCI. And while we had projected a 3 to 5 year payback, it paid for itself in about 2.5 years. Needless to say, when we purchased our new campus building in Spencer Dock, LED was one of the first items to be included in the retrofit list. Today, we continue that journey with data-driven action. We're working with greentally.ie, which is an NCI startup from one of our alumni members, to initially measure and report on scopes 1 and 2 of our carbon emissions. And we have just commenced scope 3. All of our results are published on the website, and that is because we believe that transparency is the key to success here. We're also planning, just at the moment, we're planning a major retrofit of all our plant and machinery. Much of the plant here has reached its end of economic life, and replacement should result in a 30 to 40% reduction in emissions. That obviously is depending on the items that are replaced. And this will also future-proof our facilities. We're obviously working on recycling, upcycling, waste, district heating, and optimizing our building energy management systems in both buildings. Again, every step we take is shared with staff, students, and our stakeholders. I'm now just going to do a short introduction to what we do from a sustainability through research and innovation. Of course, sustainability here at NCI isn't just operational, it's intellectual and innovative. Later, I'm going to pass you on to Professor Horacio Gonzalez, who will share insights into our research projects like the Digital for Business and Green Shift. Just as an example, Green Shift is an exciting new research project exploring sustainability in transport and mobility. It has 14 partners across Europe. And it's projects like this that are crucial to the wider climate change challenge. Horacio, just to mention it, is in Brazil at the moment, so he is enjoying the wet weather out there as well. Then we will move then to Paul Steins, and he's actually going to give you an introduction into the City Upstart 2025 initiative. Professor Steins has worked very much with Dr. Anu Sani on this program, where sustainability and entrepreneurship come together beautifully. This program guided 8 teams through mentoring and innovation workshops, culminating in a Dragon's Den style final. And it focused on sustainability driven business ideas. And again, we would see this as a perfect example of how we nurture creativity and purpose in our students and partners. And last but not least, we will look at sustainability in teaching and our community. Sustainability for us is about people, how we teach, how we learn, and how we live our values every day. John Andrews will speak about NCI's deep commitment to embedding sustainability across all our programs, ensuring that every graduate, regardless of their discipline, understands their role in building a more sustainable world. For our staff, this means ongoing learning, collaboration, and support to integrate sustainability thinking into their teaching and practice. For our students, it means leaving NCI not only with the qualification, but with a sense of responsibility and agency to drive change. Together, that's what makes NCI unique. And we would say a small college with a big heart and an even bigger purpose. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to pass over to Horacio to take you further into our research journey.
Thanks a lot, Bertie. My name is Horacio González Vélez, and indeed I'm a professor Computer Systems and the head of the Cloud Competency Center. And I also chair the research committee here at NCI. So as Bertie was referring to, I'm in Brazil in an eco resort where the conference I'm participating is being held. So it's very fitting to the occasion. So I'm going to be talking about how sustainability in research fits here. So something that I'm sure you have heard endlessly lately, it's how data centers are consuming energy, how the needs for climate change. And at this point, what we do here at NCI, and certainly through the Cloud Competency Center, is to say sustainability from a computing perspective is a design constraint. It's no longer an optional thing, an afterthought that we have to take into account into computing. And not certainly here at NCI, through the Cloud Competency Center, we work on computer systems that are adaptable, accessible, and more importantly, environmentally responsible. And I'd like to take a moment here to say this is very much aligned to what this ESD Spotlight mission is, that is to embed the SDGs into curricula, in this case into research, and to campus practice. So that's what we are looking at. To a certain extent, what we do here in terms of research integrates it with skills and policy alignment. So 3 things: research, skills, and policy. We always concentrate on that, and most certainly here at the Cloud Competency Center. But to many people, why sustainability in computing matters now? Okay, so first and foremost, there is the European requirement for climate neutrality for 2050, okay? And that requires, that's a mandate, it's legally binding, in fact, decarbonizing digital infrastructures and transport. That's a very important thing. So Ireland has to be part, and we are doing our bit here at NCI in the Cloud Competency Center. Interesting enough, we have a research portfolio of projects that are looking at different aspects of this, and I will give you a sense of that. We are looking at computer efficient architectures, also skills for digital green jobs, and interesting enough, we're trying to provide evidence-based impact for the Irish and European context. To a certain extent, this is consistent with the ESD 2030 policy document. I'm going to walk you through some examples of what we are doing. Bertie has alluded to Green Shift. We are really proud. We are coordinating these projects. We started on the 1st of October. In fact, the kickoff meeting was held at NCI in the 2nd week of October. And this is bringing 2 very topical subjects, which is artificial intelligence and high performance computing, looking specifically at green digital innovation in transport. Of course, if you are listening to this online, you cannot check it, but I'm providing live links to more information in the presentation, if that is the case. If not, I'm sure a standard Google search will take you for that. So this is a project, Green Shift, that we are coordinating with European partners, the likes of Cineca, one of the largest supercomputing centers in Italy, HLRS, ADECO, one of the largest employers, and all of us looking at innovation for transport, okay? We as coordinators at NCI are really proud of this one. Another one that is the likes of it is Digital for Business. This is our flagship project. We started on the 1st of December 2022. This is a 20 million project. The kickoff was held again at NCI. We are coordinating. And we had the pleasure of hosting two ministers at the time, Minister Harris, who was the higher education at the time in 2023, and Dara Kaliri. Mr. Kaliri was also with us at our campus in Mayor Square. And this is about SDG Alliance Advanced Digital Skills. And we again are looking at different aspects of how cloud, AI, cybersecurity, and others contribute to that side. And last but not least, Digital for Sustainability, another project that we are participating in this case as partners, which is talking about green ICTs and skills. And last but not least, smart cities, smart communities, how smart communities has been morphed, what is the future of smart communities, and we're looking in this project, SmartCom, on that. So all in all, these are 4 tangible examples of how we have a solid portfolio of research and innovation looking at the green. And on that part, the question is, what can we offer to a certain extent to the ESD ecosystem? That is an important. So I believe we can offer 3 things from the research and innovation part. We can offer model practices. We have tested energy-aware cloud and HPC patterns, as in computational patterns. We are very happy with that. FAIR and artifacts, and as in findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable artifacts, data sets, access, and new techniques that we are developing that are sustainable. Also, skills pipelines in AI, cloud, security, and analytics through education, typically at postgraduate, but also in terms of research, to enable green and digital transitions. And last but not least, of course, to have policy-ready evidence. In other words, how do we measure from a quantitative point of view and qualitative as well, efficiency, inclusion, and graduate outcomes to inform sectoral ESD roadmaps? So this is what we are doing, and these are tangible examples on how we're driving the green transition. And with that, I'll pass it to my colleague, Paul Steins, the Dean of School of Computing, for the next part.
Thank you very much, Horacio and Bertie, for that introduction. Hi, everyone, and I would like to thank the HEA for this opportunity to speak at this Spotlight series. Just to start a little bit about the City Upstart, is a year-long collaboration between City and NCI to develop a student entrepreneurship program that brings together education, innovation, and sustainability. For us, it's about changing how we teach, how students learn, and how innovation can help build a fairer and more sustainable world. So let me start by giving you a clearer picture of what the program involves. City Upstart is a year-long entrepreneurship accelerator program that's built directly into our academic curriculum. So it pairs our master's students that have created startup teams, and they're paired with experienced City mentors who guide them from the first idea right through to implementation of that idea. So it was a phenomenal success in the college. We had 140 students registered, of which 40 were selected, and these 40 worked with 30 City mentors throughout the year. They met regularly, where they came up with an idea, they refined that idea, they assessed the feasibility of that idea, and from there they developed both the business and sustainability models. The structure that we used included workshops on entrepreneurship, sustainability, leadership, and emerging technologies. But we also complemented it with expert talks on topics such as generative AI, risk management, cybersecurity, and public speaking. So these sessions helped our students to see how the technology and sustainability can complement each other rather than compete. The year culminated in a Dragon's Den style finale, which was hosted by City. And there we had 7 finalist teams that pitched to the judges. The judges came from City, Enterprise Ireland, ICT SkillNet, and some startup companies. The students weren't just imagining ideas, they were building and defending them in front of these judges or dragons. So that's a little bit about how the program worked. Let's look at the thinking behind it, what drives it educationally, and how it connects to sustainability in learning. So the motivation behind City Upstart was to rethink the whole entrepreneurship education. And for us, it was to look at it from the lens of a sustainable innovation. So we wanted students to learn not only how to build a business, but how to build one responsibly with a social purpose, such as food waste reduction, and also with environmental awareness at its core. And for us, that's what education for sustainable development means. To us, it's about connecting knowledge, skills, and values to meaningful action. So the program embeds inclusivity, well-being, and sustainability throughout. From the very start, students are encouraged to think about the human and environmental impact of their work and to design technology that serves communities rather than just markets. Their projects, and if you look at the projects, it shows that clearly. They've worked on, for example, AI-driven job matching for immigrants, sustainable energy monitoring, mental health support, and financial inclusion. For us, by blending this mentorship from industry with academic learning, we shifted the focus from, it wasn't so much about learning about sustainability, but learning through it, experiencing firsthand how innovation and values can reinforce each other. And of course, that's a little bit about the program, but the best measure of any educational initiative is its impact. So let's look at the results. And for us, the results were impressive. 92%, there was a 92% overall satisfaction for the students that took part, of which 90% report indicated that they improved their technical and innovation skills, of which 3/4 indicated they were considering turning their projects into real businesses. Now, we actually have some actual projects that are taking it to commercialization. So we have 4 teams that are currently in the process of registering as formal companies. So that demonstrates a success towards commercialization. One of the teams have already developed an app, and they're preparing to launch it on the Google Play Store and Apple App Store. One team is now conducting further in-depth research to refine their product market fit in the long-term strategy. So you can see that the whole entrepreneurship and innovational spirit around sustainability has been inculcated into our degree programs. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce John to continue.
Thanks, Paul. So hello, everyone. I'm John Andrews, and I'm the Digital Learning Specialist here at NCI. So I wanted to talk firstly about the Digital Sustainability Badge that we developed. And how did this come about? Well, it came about from a brainstorming session between myself and the former director of the Centre for Education and Lifelong Learning, Leo Casey. Leo's since retired. So I was interested in a college-wide showcase for asynchronous content as part of my role as a digital learning specialist. And Leo is passionate about sustainability, and he came up with the idea of developing an asynchronous digital badge. So then I went off, I created a position paper that was then shared by Leo with the executives, and the environment at the time was very favourable to sustainability. So the executive provided college funding to develop the badge, and I then found an associate faculty member who went it off and created the material. One issue that did arise was whether or not the badge should be mandatory for all staff. So the college had developed a sustainability strategy, which included a mandatory special purpose award on sustainability. However, we had a problem, and that was the badge was 6 hours long, and that's just not feasible for a mandatory award. So we could have redone the badge to make it about an hour and a half, which is what you would need for a mandatory badge. But in the end, the decision has been that the badge won't be mandatory. So what does a digital badge cover? Well, it's fully asynchronous. It's based around the SDGs. There are 12 topics of 1 hour each, and it takes 6 hours to complete. So if there are 12 topics of an hour each, how come it takes 6 hours to complete? Well, and the way we do it is there are 4 mandatory topics, an introduction, climate change, social justice, and finally personal action. So those are the mandatory topics. And then the student can choose 2 out of 8 further elective topics on a wide range of subjects related to the SDGs. And we've noted that having a choice is something that students really like. So we've aimed for a good grounding in basic facts, and that's really to address the fact that there's an awful lot of people, including myself sometimes, who really don't quite know the kind of whole range of what the SDGs cover. But we also wanted to introduce thought-provoking concepts such as the wedding cake, wicked thinking, and the interconnectedness of the different goals. So I've already mentioned how the badge came about, but given that NCI is teaching sustainability across multiple modules and courses, and it's embedded into our teaching, what's the logic behind having a badge, an additional badge in addition to course material? So this is something of a post hoc justification, but the badge allows NCI to officially recognise individual students' enthusiasm for sustainability. So it's something extra that students can do. And the other thing to note is that while individual modules and courses can often address specific topics of sustainability, the badge allows a bird's eye view of the SDGs and sustainability. So for instance, our undergrad in computing has a module on sustainability and AI, which is highly topical, but it's not going to cover all the goals. And also it's a flexible resource that lecturers can use to help students engage with sustainability in the context of their own assignments or areas of study. So a lecturer can point a student group, go off and have a look at this badge, and that can give them the background they need to do an assignment. So prior to this meeting, I spoke to a number of faculty members across NCI from both schools, both the School of Computing and the School of Business, to gain some understanding of their experience with ESD. I found that staff were keen to share their experiences with sustainability. So this actually is just a flavour of those conversations, as they had many interesting observations. So one lecturer described how around 3 years ago, the School of Computing shifted assignments so that they were contextualised around the SDGs, and I think this is due to Paul. So what had been a project or an assignment, build a website, now became build a website that focuses on the SDGs. And undergraduate students are being introduced to the SDGs right from their first semester. And this lecturer in particular, Frances, has seen how over time the SDGs has entered into students' consciousness almost. She might interact with the same student 2 or 3 years later, and they will still have an interest in a goal that they developed right at the start of first year. Another lecturer spoke of the challenges students face in business degrees when they're faced with the reality that powerful corporate agents often have agendas that are inimical to the SDGs. So how can they flip perspectives between being a citizen of the world and someone who's aiming to become an entrepreneur or marketeer or succeed in business? And that can be actually quite uncomfortable for those students, she found. But nevertheless, she still felt that it's better to go out into the world with an understanding of the reality of our situation. Another lecturer spoke about how they can see that students with leadership potential are often the ones who are more likely to engage with the SDGs. So that was a really interesting observation, I thought. But perhaps the most common theme was that people are surprised just how broad the SDGs are. And this breadth of the SDGs allowed students and staff to engage with the SDGs in a way that just wouldn't be possible with a narrower focus. And finally, on the theme of internal voice, external impact, I just wanted to mention a lovely email that my colleagues Stephen Sands and Robert MacDonald received from one of their MBA students. So the student had initially approached the sustainable business leadership model as a box-ticking exercise and freely admitted this, just something that had to be done in order to complete her MBA, but found that it was actually one of the most impactful modules and provided her with the biggest eureka moments of her course. And she went on to say that the Sustainable Business Leadership module was one of the most impactful modules on the MBA, and how she's planning a sustainability strategy to present to her board. So that's it. Thanks all. And I will hand you back now to Nicola.
Thank you very much for that, John. So that's just an overview capturing where we've taken on the journey from the macro to micro, but to take it into even further detail and absolutely minuscule detail, the Future Proof 2030, the Transforming Our World theme, actually dovetails with the mission, vision and values of the college, of leaving no one behind. And just a small aside on a recent research project that I've been involved in with one of our partners who are special purpose award students. I think sometimes we run the risk of having a lot of data and a tsunami overload of information. And we just brought it back to first principles in one of the actual assessment workshops and then through a piece of reflective practice to actually go back to first principles of exactly as we've described here, what are the environmental impacts through the SDGs of how we do assessment? Is it around printing paper? Is it around artificial intelligence? Is it even around how you have your coffee or your tea when you're doing your study? And it was quite an eye-opener for me as the programme director to see that about 80%, if not 80 to 90% of the students in the class had a disconnect between those basics and those first principles. So while we have a lot of data and we have sustainability days and we collaborate with a lot of community projects, part of the ethos of what we're trying to do is to bring it back to first principles and to ensure that we have case studies that will impact also on students who perhaps aren't traditional students that we would have on our campus. And they may only be with us for a short period of time, but it's to ensure that we leave nobody behind from any of our practices within the college to ensure that everybody does have that access to the capacity to change their lives through education. Because as you can see, the facts and the figures, there's a lot of maths. We have 7 modules with sustainability, we have a micro-credential, we have multiple learning outcomes, and we've almost 20 level programs, 20 programs at level 7 to 9 with sustainability themes and titles. Like most other people who've presented at these spotlight series, we do look after the environmental through our canteen, through our buildings, as Bertie has told us, through the actual infrastructure of what we use. But sometimes perhaps we run a danger of having that statistical tsunami and information overload for students. So it's taking everything back to first principles and perhaps addressing things from the macro to the micro, one student, one community, one society, and one economy at a time through the SDGs. But I think we've used enough of your time. We couldn't resist doing this today for the day that's in it. And we're all very grateful for your time and your attention. And I think, Anna, we're happy to open the floor now for any queries or questions that people may have.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nicola. Thank you all presenters for this great overview of your projects and initiatives. So now it's time for the Q&A. Feel free to unmute yourselves if you want to ask any questions to any of the presenters. You can also write in the chat and we will pick them up. We actually have a question there from Colin. He's asking, have you noticed any chance in how students approach content or projects following engagement with the badge? Do they tend to push forward the conversations too? So that's the comment that Colin left us.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. Thanks, Colin. So what we found is that, so the badge is asynchronous. So in that sense, kind of, I'm not seeing quite exactly how the students are developing with it. I have a kind of feedback form on the badge, but speaking to lecturers, they find that people who've done the badge definitely have a greater interaction with the goals, and often a curiosity to speak to other people as well who have done the badge. So that's, yeah, so it does definitely have an impact on the students, without a doubt.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay, well, in that case, if there are no further questions, we will end the session. Thank you so much again, and everyone for joining us today. Also, next week's session will be with the University of Limerick on Friday, the 7th of November. So I hope to see you again next week. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.